Welcome to Illuminating Catholics, podcast of the Diocese of Sioux City. I'm Dawn Prosser, Director of Communications for the Diocese. Together with Carmen Bauer of the Faith Formation Office, we will shed light upon topics of faith in the modern church. Our guests include Catholic clergy, religious sisters, and other experts in their fields to help us understand what's happening in the church today. We will explore issues, even the tough ones, and to find answers to common questions about Catholicism. Thank you for joining us for today's Illuminating Catholics, shedding light to understand the modern church.
Welcome back to the Illuminating Catholics podcast. I am Carmen Bauer, the Director of Faith Formation for the Diocese of Sioux City.
And I'm Dawn Prosser, Director of Communications for the Diocese.
We'd like to welcome you back to this podcast, and we thank you so much for listening to Illuminating Catholics on platforms from YouTube to Apple Podcasts to Spotify and on our diocesan and Lumen website. So thank you so much for listening wherever you find us. As we all know, if we live in Northwest Iowa, the Catholic school system is such an important part of our culture here, and they are great gifts to our parishes, our communities, as well as our diocese. And we thought that who better to speak on Catholic education than our very own Superintendent of the diocesan schools, Patty Lansink. So today we'd like to welcome Patty Lansink to our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for saying yes. So, Patty, I know you've been involved in Catholic schools in the diocese. It seems like a long time, even though you're not that old. She's very young. But you've got such a wonderful and diverse background in the different positions. So if you want to fill us in, like where you're from, your education, and then lead into how you got involved in Catholic schools in the diocese.
Sure. So I grew up in Ida Grove, Iowa, kind of in the center of our diocese. And I got my education at Iowa State University. I was a zoology major, if you can believe that. I ended up getting my teaching certification after I graduated, and then taught middle school science in Wall Lake, Iowa for a while. And then I went back to school and got my school counseling degree. So I was a high school counselor for a while in Ida Grove. And then of course, I went back to school again and got my administrative certification. I was encouraged by my own building principal to do that. So, and then one day, Father Paul Kelly called from Denison at St. Rose and asked if I would be interested in being a principal there. It's, I went back to school. I didn't really think I wanted to be a principal, but God apparently called me, and I said yes, and loved it. I was there for about 7 or 8 years. And Dan Ryan, the superintendent at the time, also needed some help as an assistant superintendent. So I did both for a while. He encouraged me to go back, went back to school again, and got my superintendent licensure. And then he left, and I was hired as the interim superintendent, and then finally hired on in, I think it was 2018 maybe. And so I've been doing, I think this is my 8th year doing the full-time superintendent.
We're so glad
That's my journey.
What does that day-to-day look like you for being in this position? I don't think it's a lot, something that a lot of us think about, what the directions you're pulled in and the places you visit.
It's, it's a big diocese, and there's, it's a lot of geography to cover. My goal is always to get to we have 15 schools, and my goal is to get to each one of those once a semester. Obviously, I talk to the administrators more often than that, but to actually visit the school, see some classrooms, interact with some students, which is what I really miss. That's always my goal. But a lot of what I do is I feel like I'm in meetings all the time, kind of like our bishop, just meet. We lead our administrative team, professional development for them. We spend a lot of our time developing professional development for our teachers that are in our schools. We're currently working on universal design for learning, which is helping teachers design instruction to meet the needs of all the learners. They have such a diverse group of learners in one single classroom. So we're trying to help give them the skills that they need to meet those varying needs. I do a lot with our Diocesan Board of Education, policy work, leading school boards in our schools. So it's no day is the same, that's for sure.
Well, and I think that you just have the skills to be able to operate in that kind of work environment too. I'm always impressed with the places you'll go to so many places in a single day. And I'm always amazed with, how stretched you are, but you just always manage it so well. And I know that a lot of people look up to you for your leadership in their school. So I just think that's wonderful.
Thank you.
So you mentioned that we have 15 Catholic school systems in our diocese. So how many students do we serve?
This year we have 6,229 students.
Oh, wow.
We'd been holding steady with our enrollment for a while, and this year we were up 5%. I think a lot of that was due to our ESA implementation. But yeah, we're just thrilled to be up and serving more kids and families this year.
And so are most of those kids Catholic, or how does that diversity look within the school systems?
Yeah, the large share are Catholic. We have about 20% non-Catholic, and that varies by system. We have some systems that have a larger percentage in their school. We're about 13% Latino diocesan-wide, and we serve about 26% free and reduced lunch students. So we are definitely a diverse group, more than people think, I believe.
Well, I think it's so wonderful. Lots of rural communities don't always have a lot of educational options, and I think it's so wonderful that our Catholic schools are present not only in the larger areas of our diocese, but also in those smaller communities. And I think that's so valuable because it does allow parents, that opportunity to really discern what might be best for their kids. I know my kids, they attend Galen Catholic up in Lamar's, and they just feel like home. That I love dropping them off at school. Everyone's so welcoming. And I think there's that, every school, we know teachers in our communities work so hard and are also welcoming, but there's something very special about being able to pray together and to worship God together. And I think that just flows through the classrooms. For those who are not connected to our Catholic schools, maybe they, in this time and place, maybe their kids are graduated, or maybe their kids are too little, or they're new to the area. What makes our Catholic schools special, now especially in 2024? What has changed and adapted, and what do we offer that makes us a little unique?
I think you already touched on it, Carmen. A lot of what people say makes our schools special is that they are a family. I think each one of our 15 schools has a unique character, and they truly are a family. They like you said, they pray together, they worship together, they have family nights, and people show up in droves at those things. And it just shows that they like being together and they like being a part of that family. So it really gives people a place to belong outside of their own nuclear family. It's really kind of a wonderful environment. Something else that folks don't often know or realize is that all of our schools are state accredited. Our Catholic schools, there are 3 other dioceses obviously in the state, and we all do state accreditation. And we feel like that's an important piece to help folks know that, we are accountable to the state for certain things. We do have some freedoms and some flexibilities because we're private schools. But for the most part, we are held to the same standard as our public school counterparts. Our schools I think there is also a misconception that they are not affordable. Our schools are absolutely affordable, especially now with the education savings accounts. And next year, every family will qualify for those. We're accessible, we're welcoming, as I mentioned before, all faiths, all abilities, so all students are welcome. Our classrooms are places where kids are loved and nurtured, and I think you've experienced that with your own children. And they learn and live their faith all day, every day. So they're wonderful places to belong.
You had mentioned the family nights that the schools have, and I can just recall that the Christmas concert, especially elementary Christmas concert, was like the social event of the semester. Don't even plan on having a meeting or anything because it's not going to happen. They're going to be at that concert, which is those things like that are so fun. It's just gives so much life to a parish to have either grade school and high school or just a grade school. There's just nothing else quite like it. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort, but the benefits are huge. And speaking of the benefits of a Catholic school, nationwide, we celebrate Catholic Schools Week, usually the last week in January. It's very big for our schools, and celebrating what they do. This year it'll be January 26th through February 1st. So, Patty, if you could fill people in, again, if they're not associated with a Catholic school right now or haven't been in a long time. So what is Catholic Schools Week, and why is it something that we celebrate as a diocese?
Sure. As you said, it's always the last week of January, so it's predictable. And the purpose is really to showcase the value of Catholic schools. They bring a lot of value to our communities that folks don't often realize. And the whole purpose is to highlight the benefits of a Catholic education and then celebrate students and families who are making that choice. The NCEA, National Catholic Education Association, puts out kind of a marketing toolkit. And it helps schools frame, so like each day, one day they might celebrate their parish. The next day they'll celebrate parents and students. Then they'll celebrate the community. So they find ways to make those connections throughout the week and, have certain celebrations each day. And when I started at St. Rose, I always called it's like homecoming on steroids.
That's good.
Is what it felt like to me.
It's very true.
That is true. That is wonderful. I know that traditionally you have been trying to, and you're always traveling to the sites, but you make specific intentional trips during Catholic Schools Week. Do you mind sharing with us your schedule for this week? Unveil it, so to speak.
Of course. Yeah, we are traveling to St. Patrick's in Sheldon, St. Rose in Denison, and Pocahontas Catholic School in Pocahontas, obviously. And then Bishop will be celebrating the Bishop Healing Catholic School's all-school mass. I think that's on Tuesday. We try to rotate each year where Bishop goes. Everyone loves Bishop coming. And so we try to rotate each year and give everybody a shot at having the Bishop come.
So will he be traveling about 3 days with you?
Yes.
So wonderful. You will just have a blast, I'm sure, and then be totally exhausted.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there any other masses Bishop is going to do that week, or just the one in Healing?
I believe he's doing mass at Pocahontas and at St. Rose. I think they both asked him to celebrate
wonderful.
mass there.
That's wonderful. I'm sure you love going back to St. Rose and
it's like homecoming for me.
With your peeps.
Yeah, it's great.
It's a great school. So, again, you've been doing this a long time as an educator, as a principal, as superintendent. What do you look forward the most of Catholic Schools Week 2025?
Every year, I love seeing Bishop interact with the students. He's so good. He's just so good and natural, and kids love him. It's really fun to watch him interact with the students. So
I like it when he shows you Zucchero.
Yes.
I can use this as a cereal bowl.
Yeah,
it's still funny.
And we do selfies with the kids, and it's a great week.
We love the pictures that you send us.
Yeah,
much appreciated. So, I just want to reiterate what you said about the value that the schools bring to the communities. It offers parents, Catholic and non-Catholic, a choice in education. There's wonderful public schools, but it's just so invaluable to have that option, especially in some of these smaller rural communities. And some of these small schools are just absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
And some of the things they're doing, it just blows my mind. I've been watching it for years, but it still blows my mind how wonderful these big and small schools are all doing. So with this value that the schools bring to our families, to our communities, to our parishes, how could the diocesan faithful support Catholic education options in the Diocese of Sioux City?
Sure. With the implementation of the ESA, the Education Savings Accounts, I think there's a misconception that schools no longer need, or that the families no longer need tuition assistance, and there still is a lot of unmet need out there. In a number of our schools, the ESA doesn't cover the full cost of tuition. It's expensive to run a school, and our schools do it all based on tuition and fundraising and support from the parish. So it takes a lot of money to make that run. And so there's still a lot of unmet need in tuition and fees. So our faithful can help. We still have the Monsignor Lafferty Tuition Foundation, and those funds are used to help support families paying tuition for our Catholic schools. Families also get a tax credit, a 75% tax credit for the state of Iowa in doing that. So that's still needed. But so they can volunteer in their schools. I mean, our schools need again, lots of manpower and extra help to make things go, to make events run well. So those are a couple of ways that I can think of they can help support.
Well, and I just, as you were, we talk about we can support financially, but, I think another group of people that really do a great service to our Catholic schools are the recent graduates, those who are kind of making their way into the world and might not be financially able to be big supporters, but, they can be a light to the world and also just be witness to that the Catholic education system is still important in the world, and they are able to be unique in their jobs and their careers because of that, or as parents and a family. Are you able to keep in touch with any of those recent grads, or what's some feedback that you hear from graduates who might, as they get older and out of college, really look back on their life and become even more thankful for their parents' sacrifices and the sacrifices of the community to make that education possible for them?
Yeah, in my role, I don't have as close of a connection to our graduates. Our schools do. And actually, I was just talking with our Director of Ed Services, Kelly Cahoot, and we are working with our schools on getting set up. It's called the Student Clearinghouse, and it's a way that they can track their graduate data. We don't do a very good job of that right now, but we would like to do more of that so that we can speak to what you just mentioned. It tracks where your graduates go, what kind of jobs if they have, if they graduate in 4 years, those sorts of data points. There's also a need for the parish data, because I feel that we are forming future Catholics that will hopefully support our parishes and stay active members wherever they land. But we don't do a good job of tracking that data. So that's something that we hope to do a better job of.
That'd be really interesting to see that and have some of those testimonials from alumni. And I do see some of our schools do that. Even some of the grade schools. Hey, this was a Danbury Catholic, grade school graduate, and it's they do a nice job with that. That hey, I'm doing this now, and my background really helped propel me into the future, etc. I think I wouldn't mind asking, again, with your history at St. Rose, you were kind of the shining star with working with diverse populations at the time, and I believe that they still are. Would you mind talking a little bit about how that occurred, and maybe some of our schools currently work to welcome our diverse populations in the diocese, which is growing, of course?
Sure. When I started at St. Rose, I think we were about 40% Latino at the time. And when I started there, I had come from Storm Lake, and at that high school at the time, we spoke, I think there were 8 languages spoken in the high school, so there was a lot of diversity. And I realized that there was a lot more we could be doing at St. Rose to welcome families, to communicate better. So we started doing, small things like sending all of the communication home in both languages, for example. Having somebody available in the school who could speak Spanish when a family called or stopped in. Just little things like that. And I think when I left, they were up to 75% Latino. And it's probably higher now, honestly. The other thing, too, is we encourage a lot of our schools to go to the Latino Enrollment Initiative, which is put on by Notre Dame University. And that really, it's a 4-day intense workshop of how to make your school environment more welcoming to Latino families. But honestly, the strategies can be used for any culture, any ethnic group. It's just being more cognizant of your school environment and making sure that you're welcoming all cultures and making it accessible to folks. So that helped a lot.
That was a wonderful program. I was blessed to be able to participate in that. But it's great to see schools putting out information in different languages, their signage, including Spanish. And I think our religion teachers have really grasped onto like the Day of the Dead and Our Lady of Guadalupe, and kind of incorporating that into the religion classes and welcoming those cultures.
And that program's still going, and we still have schools who are going. I think Erin Shute went this past summer. She's the new principal over at Sacred Heart here in Sioux City. And it's great learning, and they're still going.
Well, the census data shows that our nation and our diocese is becoming younger and more Latino. Mm-hmm. So we need to do our best to welcome them.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess, have another question just coming from the faith formation perspective. We know that families are so instrumental in passing along the faith to their kids. And so what encouragement would you give families? I mean, obviously, families send their children to Catholic school because they want them to have that Catholic environment, which is even more precious to us now in this day and age. But we know that the Catholic schools alone cannot pass on the faith. It's a system of support and encouragement, and providing children with that language and of theology and religion. But if you could, if parents are listening, what would you say to them to really help them realize their role in that? Because that role at home only strengthens what the attempts are at the Catholic school.
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind. We have been trying to work with our schools in making more parent connections. There's a program called Virtues in Practice, and several of our schools are doing that. It's got a home-family connection. So we just encourage families that when students bring things like that home, to take the time to work, make those connections and let their kids share with them what they're doing at school and how they can get involved. When schools offer opportunities to volunteer or to come to events, I would encourage, do whatever you can to get to those and just feel that family and the environment. And finally, really, there's no substitute for just going to Mass on weekends. Yes. That is one thing yes, our students go to Mass during the week, but it's a different thing entirely to go to Mass as a family on the weekends.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. So, Patty, I really appreciate you coming in and coming to our little studio, being on our Illuminating Catholics podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're growing in our listeners so more people can hear the good news about our Catholic schools and the wonderful work that you're doing to lead them. And I know whenever they need you, you are there. You must have great gas mileage on your vehicle. Cause
a lot of windshield time.
Yes, always on the road, there's nothing that can supplement you being there in person and to assist our schools and our teachers and our administrators. And I know that they appreciate that. So we really are looking forward to Catholic Schools Week and watching each school share their story and how they shine. Because like you said, they're all very different, and it's just so fun to see what they're going to do. And I can't wait to see that. And our schools are forming our young people academically and spiritually. So it is a true blessing to our parishes and our community and our families. So we want to wish everyone a happy Catholic Schools Week, and we wish safe travels for you and Bishop on that special week. So
thank you.
So thank you all for following us, and we can't wait to share our upcoming episodes with you. We always have a wonderful slate and a diverse slate of people coming in to share their stories with us, because there's always something new to learn about the faith. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Illuminating Catholics, shedding light to understand the modern church. Follow us for more episodes on topics of the Catholic faith. For more diocesan news, visit lumenmedia.org.